The sun beat down on the African savanna. The land was parched and dry. Dust devils danced in the wind. Animals gasped for breath. This was once a land teeming with life. Now it was a harsh and unforgiving place. But even in the darkest of times, hope remains. Hope in the form of a magnificent lion named Arjun. Arjun was the king of his pride. He was a symbol of strength and courage. His roar could shake the ground. His eyes held the wisdom of generations. The other lions respected him. The lionesses admired him. The cubs adored him. They all looked to him for guidance. Arjun knew his pride was in danger. He had seen the fear in their eyes. He had heard the whimpers of the cubs. He knew he had to act fast. The survival of the pride depended on him. The drought had gripped the savanna for months. The once mighty river was now a trickle. The watering holes were nothing but cracked earth. The animals were desperate. Zebras and wildebeest grew weak. Giraffes strained their necks to reach the highest branches. Even the mighty elephants felt the sting of thirst. The lionesses, skilled hunters, struggled to find prey. The antelope herds had long since moved on. The zebras that remained were too weak to outrun a lion's charge. The cubs cried out in hunger. Their mothers could only lick their heads. Helpless to ease their pain, Arjun watched his pride suffer. He felt their pain as his own. He knew he had to find water. He had to lead his pride to safety. He would not let them perish. He was their king, and he would protect them. Arjun called a meeting of the pride. He stood on a rocky outcrop, his powerful form silhouetted against the setting sun. He spoke of the drought. He spoke of the danger, but he also spoke of hope. "We must leave this land," he roared, his voice echoing across the savanna. "We must journey north to the mountains." Legend tells of a hidden oasis there, a place where water flows freely. Some lions were afraid. The journey would be long and perilous. Others were doubtful. The legend of the oasis was just that, a legend. But Arjun's gaze was steady. His resolve was unwavering. "I will lead you," he vowed. "I will not rest until we find water. Who will join me?" One by one, the lions stepped forward. They were the strongest and bravest of the pride. They were ready to follow their king, no matter the cost. The next morning, as the first rays of sun touched the savanna, Arjun led his pride out of their territory. They were a formidable sight. A dozen lions and lionesses, their muscles rippling beneath their tawny coats. Their eyes scanned the horizon, alert for danger. Arjun set a steady pace, his senses on high alert. He knew the dangers that awaited them. Hyenas, scavengers with a taste for lion cubs. Crocodiles, lurking in the muddy waters of the few remaining rivers. And the ever-present threat of starvation and thirst. The journey was long and tiring. The sun beat down relentlessly. The wind whipped up dust devils that stung their eyes and choked their lungs. But Arjun never faltered. He encouraged his pride with a gentle nudge or a reassuring purr. He would not let them lose hope. Not now. Not when they needed him most. Section 5. Dangers on the Savannah. The first challenge came in the form of a cackling pack of hyenas. They were drawn by the scent of the lions, hoping to scavenge an easy meal. They circled the pride, their eyes gleaming with malice. Arjun let out a thunderous roar, a warning to the scavengers. The hyenas backed away, but they did not disperse. They were hungry, and they outnumbered the lions. A tense standoff ensued. Then, with a burst of speed, a young lioness darted forward. She was protecting the cubs, shielding them from the snapping jaws of the hyenas. Arjun joined the fray, his claws bared, his teeth flashing. The other lions followed suit. The hyenas, outnumbered and outmatched, were quickly routed. They slunk away, their tails between their legs. The lions had won the first battle. But the war for survival was far from over. Section 6. Hope in the mountains. Days turned into nights. The lions continued their march. Their paws were cracked and bleeding. Their bodies were weary, but still, they pressed on. Arjun refused to give up. He had made a promise to his pride. Finally, on the horizon, a sight filled them with hope. The mountains. They loomed large and imposing, their peaks shrouded in mist. According to legend, the hidden oasis lay within their embrace. The climb was arduous. The slopes were steep and treacherous. The air grew thinner with every step. But the lions pushed themselves to their limits. They had come too far to turn back now. The promise of water spurred them on. Arjun, despite his own fatigue, encouraged his pride. He nudged the weaker lions forward. He shared his dwindling water supply with the cubs. He was their king, their protector, their beacon of hope. Section 7. The Fury of the Storm. As they neared the summit, the sky darkened ominously. The wind howled through the peaks, carrying with it the threat of a storm. Soon rain lashed down, drenching the lions to the bone. Lightning flashed, illuminating the treacherous mountain path. The lions huddled together for warmth, their bodies trembling with cold and fear. The storm raged on, testing their resolve. Still, Arjun refused to give in to despair. He knew they were close. He could feel it. "We must find shelter!" he roared above the din. He led them to a narrow cave, hidden behind a curtain of cascading water. They huddled inside, seeking refuge from the storm's fury. The hours dragged by. The storm showed no sign of abating. The lions were soaked to the bone, their energy depleted. Even Arjun felt a flicker of doubt. Had he led his pride to their deaths? Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the storm subsided. The clouds parted, revealing a sky awash in the warm hues of the setting sun. A rainbow arced across the heavens, a symbol of hope reborn. Arjun emerged from the cave, shaking the water from his mane. He took a deep breath of the fresh, clean air. And then, he saw it, nestled in a valley below, a sight that made his heart soar. The oasis. It was more beautiful than he could have imagined. A waterfall cascaded down the mountainside, feeding a crystal-clear lake. Lush vegetation grew around the water's edge, a stark contrast to the parched savanna they had left behind. Arjun let out a roar of triumph, a sound that echoed across the valley. His pride, revitalized by this sight, roared in response. They had done it. They had survived the journey. They had found their salvation. After days of resting and replenishing their strength, it was time for the pride to return home. The journey back was no easier than the journey there, but their spirits were high, their bodies renewed. Arjun, though still weary, led with the same determination and courage he had shown throughout their ordeal. He knew his pride was counting on him, just as he had counted on them. As they made their way across the savannah, a sight greeted them that filled their hearts with joy. Rain. A steady, life-giving rain that soaked into the parched earth, quenching the thirst of a dying land. Rivers began to flow again. Watering holes filled up. The brown, dusty landscape transformed into a vibrant green. Life was returning to the savannah, and it was all thanks to the courage and leadership of one extraordinary lion. The return of Arjun and his pride was met with jubilation. The lions who had stayed behind greeted them with roars of welcome. The cubs, their bellies now full of milk from their well-fed mothers, tumbled over one another in their excitement. Arjun, standing tall and proud, addressed his pride. He spoke of their journey, of the dangers they had faced, of the hope they had never relinquished. He spoke of the importance of unity, of courage, of never giving up hope. His words resonated with his pride. They had witnessed his strength, his wisdom, his unwavering commitment to their well-being. He had not only led them to water, he had led them through their darkest hour. And so, under Arjun's leadership, the pride flourished. The cubs grew strong and healthy. The lionesses honed their hunting skills. And Arjun, the lion with the heart of a lion and the spirit of a leader, watched over them all. Arjun's tale became a legend, passed down through generations of lions. He was remembered not just for his strength and courage, but for his compassion, his wisdom, and his unwavering belief in his pride. He had shown them that even in the face of adversity, even when hope seemed lost, courage and determination could overcome any obstacle. He had taught them that true leadership was not about power, but about service, about putting the needs of others before one's own. And so, the savannah thrived. The animals multiplied. The land echoed with the sounds of life. And at the heart of it all, watching over his pride with a heart full of love and contentment, was Arjun, the lion who had dared to hope, the king who had led his people to salvation. His legacy, a legacy of courage, hope, and unwavering leadership, would forever be etched into the very soul of the savannah.